Hello, Pranav. Welcome to the GPT3 workshop for product managers. Thank you so much for taking time today. I'll not spend too much time in introducing yourself and I'll let you do the honors. Uh, please walk us through what you have been doing, where you come from, and what Pepper is up to and what you do with GPT3. Over to you.
Got it. Thanks, Niran, for the intro. I'm a product manager at Pepper right now. Been here for around 2 years now. And last year we discovered GPT-3 come out, and it had some interesting use cases around content. So we as a content company, so Pepper Content is a SaaS-enabled content marketplace where we're building a global marketplace where you can order content like an e-commerce experience. When the GPT-3 engine last came out in July last year, we discovered some interesting use cases of it around copywriting, around content as in general, and we definitely had to jump on it. So Nirat, only you have been quite helpful in the beginning when you had showed us the GPT-3 demo, and that helped us get on the track, and we started building it out. So far, it's been great. We've built out a different product called Peppertype.ai. So Peppertype.ai is a AI-based auto generation content model where we generate over 40 types of content right now. Started with just six, and have scaled over to 40 types of content right now. Uh, Around 50,000 users use the product right now, and they have been able to generate over 135 million plus words in the last 8 months. So it's been going really at a great scale. Uh, People love the content that is generated, and yeah, it's a kind of a DIY model where you can generate content, put it together, and basically use it.
Great,
So
great.
yeah.
And would you like us to walk us through what Peppertype is and give us an example of some of the 40 use cases which you mentioned? And before we get into that, are you comfortable sharing how many users are paid, or what is the latest public revenue number which you have shared?
Got it. So I'll quickly share my screen. You're able to see it.
Yep, yep. So it's called
Yeah,
peppertype.ai, right?
Peppertype.ai. Yeah.
Yeah.
So these are the three problems that we targeted when we started out. That writing quality content for your business is always very slow. It's a very slow process, whether you get it done from anywhere, whether you get it done from, a writer or your content agency. It's a very slow process. Second thing, what if your favorite copywriter is not around? So that is another real problem. And third, creative fatigue. This is a creator problem that it gets really taxing at times to create content. All of the creative fields have this term called creative block, when you just can't come up with new ideas. And that becomes a really large problem as a creative professional. So we thought of these three problems, and we thought, how can we help businesses create content faster and at scale, and also help the creators get out of that creative fatigue, right? So Peppertype.ai and its AI-assisted writing tool for creating quality content in seconds. So only two underlines that I would like to do here is quality content and in seconds. That has been the goal forever. That it has to be really, really high quality content, and it has to be very, very fast, right? So yeah, it's built on a deep learning model that is GPT-3 for natural language with over 175 billion parameters. So we've been able to cover a great deal of use cases, including copywriting. Copywriting can be for ad copies, website headlines, blog ideas, maybe that. Second thing that we're able to cover really nice is SEO. So SEO requires a lot of content around blogs, around meta descriptions, around website pages. So we've been able to cover that really well. Third use case that has come up and that has been used a lot lately is e-commerce, right? So all the e-commerce stores essentially needs product descriptions, right? And that has been a pain forever for these store owners. So using Peppertype, they were able to generate large product descriptions that are SEO optimized and that are very, very fit to tailor the need of the audience, and that directly speaks to the audience. So we've been able to generate really good product descriptions. And yeah, people have been using it in 100 ways, but yeah, we offer currently 40 plus content types. So yeah, these are some of the content types that you can see here on the screen. Website headlines, brand product descriptions, Google ad copies, social media captions. So social media has been a great use case as well. Social media, including Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. People use it everywhere. All types of ads, SEO meta description, blog ideas. So that has been working great. Uh, so as I said, right, diving a little deeper into the value prop that we had to offer was that we will be offering only high quality content as if it does not meet our quality criteria, we won't generate it. Right, that has been the goal forever. So yeah, it has to be original content. That has been a first parameter for us. Plagiarism does not exist in Peppertype today. We want to end the writer's block forever. We want to generate multiple options for every content, right? So it's always, in the content creation industry, there's a saying that starting is the most difficult part of creating some content, right? The starting when you ideate the process. So are you able to do that using Peppertype? Get multiple options and just write and build in on top of that. Another thing, Peppertype's content also adjusts to the brand tone that you are using. So let's say if you're a very professional brand and I'm a very witty brand, so it will accordingly change. So it has to be like that. Lastly, it's perfect grammar. It's very simple to use and all the stuff. So currently, we launched in February officially. Before that, we were in beta for a month. So currently, we have over 50,000 users. We have generated over 135 million words, and we have a total of 40 content types right now on the product. Yeah.
So of these 50,000 plus users, how many are paying?
So around out of every 6 users, at least one is a paid user. So we are around 7,000 users in those terms.
So that's 7,000 users in 8 months. So that's quite impressive. You have roughly 900 paid users, 800 to 900 paid users every month signing up, which I'm assuming is not so ad heavy campaign from your side. It's mostly word of mouth. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
it's been quite organic, and something that's been really able to help us is it's going great in the global place,
Mm-hmm.
where we see traffic from over 160 countries today.
Wow. And this is all
So
for English?
yeah, not exactly. So we are actually working on the language side of things.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Peppertype currently does allow generation in major languages like French, German, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not perfect there yet. So we
Mm-hmm.
want to make sure that we do a bit of editing, we do a bit of quality check before we go on to the language side of things.
Got it. And for the other languages as well, do you use GPT-3 as a backbone, or like do you refine it on your own with a human input, or is there some other layer between that?
Got it. So I think language translation has been a great use case of GPT-3. Where I've seen it work, and I've did some POC on that side of things. But when generating content, when you're creating new content, it works perfectly in English language only. All the
Mm-hmm.
other languages, it kind of fails. So
Mm-hmm.
you can do one thing, that you can generate content in English,
Mm-hmm.
then translate it back. So
Got it.
that can be a workaround that you can do. But if you input French parameters, or if you input Mandarin as a language, it won't do
Mm-hmm.
that great.
Got it. So you mentioned a couple of very interesting things. The first is brand tone, right? Or which what we might popularly know as persona, like okay, a professional and then age group. These are
Yeah.
personas. So how do you customize it for each brand? Do you do it by examples, or do you do it as a part of your prompt? Anything which would give us some context.
Yeah. So I think great question. And in those terms, brand tone. So GPT-3 works best if you're training it on examples, right? If you train it on examples, 3 examples, the fourth output is going to be very, very likely on based of the output in that the example that you've given it. So there is some sort of prompt training that we do. So it's a dynamic prompt model. So
Mm-hmm.
for every brand, so let's say if you are using Peppertype and I'm using Peppertype, the prompt on the backend is going to be different for both of us.
Mm-hmm.
Yours is going to be based on what you had liked earlier, what all the examples that you had liked earlier. Mine is going to be based on my examples.
Mm.
So that way, it's different. It adjusts to your brand tone and mine at the same time, even if they're completely different.
Got it. So would you be comfortable sharing, let's say, what is the typical number of examples which you have seen to work? So like, is it, let's say, like 2 to 5, or do you typically end up needing more examples per brand?
So that is something that is very, very hit and trial model. So GPT-3, like one thing that I've learned from the past 8 months working with GPT closely is that you can never predict what's going to come.
Mm-hmm.
It's all based on all a game of probability.
Mm.
Sometimes you'll get fantastic results even in 2 examples.
Mm.
Sometimes, one correlation that I've been able to find is the shorter the examples, right? Let's say if you want to generate just 6 words, maybe a website
Hmm.
headline, right? So
Hmm.
you probably need to provide more examples. Like let's say
Hmm.
3 examples you provide, then it's going to work. In one, it's not going to work. If you provide just one example and you expect the output to be similar, it's not going to work that great. But if you
Hmm.
provide three of these examples, it's going to work great. But in the opposite case, if it's a slightly longer form content piece, let's say you're generating product descriptions,
Hmm.
so even if you provide one, it sometimes work. So I
Hmm.
think it's based on length. That shorter form, if it's a shorter form output, you need to provide more examples. If it's a longer form output, you can get with one.
Got it. And in the prompt, do you use in a prompt design? Do you like manufacture the prompt to indicate the tone? So as an example, do you put the word professional or casual in your prompts to make sure that GPT-3 doesn't even though you have examples, do you make it a part of the instruction set itself?
Yeah, definitely. So two models actually that are running right now, and quite interesting results across both. So definitely one thing, examples do a much larger play here. Let's say if your examples are in professional language, and even if I try to generate witty content, it's not going to work that great. But if your examples are already in a witty language, then the outputs are going to be witty by default. So definitely, if you can change the examples, it's the way to go. But if you can't, you can also adjust tone of voice as an input parameter every single time in your examples and in your output. So that's a very hidden trial model. Let's say one out of three outputs match that tone of voice that you entered. Two out of three sometimes matches, but
Hmm.
sometimes 0 out of 3 also can match. Right? No output is matching your tone of voice that you entered
Hmm.
because it's just some instruction that you're giving to GPT-3. When
Hmm.
you add it in the examples, you force it to do it like that.
Hmm. Hmm. And you mentioned there are two different models. Would you like to expand on that? What are the two different approaches that you're trying?
Yeah, these two models, right? First, you can enter it in the input parameter only. Let's say my GPT prompt design is something like input, tone of voice, output, and then similarly, right?
Hmm.
Uh, then I input, let's say first may I input some brand that is very professional. I input the tone professional. I add in examples that are professional. Then I'm generating some output, let's say, and I enter a brand like Dunzo or Sweetie that is very sweetie and that is very casual in their tone. So it's probably not going to work that great.
Hmm.
One out of three outputs might get casual because you had entered it,
Hmm.
but the examples that you have given are very professional.
Hmm.
So it's not going to be very, very great outputs, but yeah,
Hmm.
1 out of 3, 2 out of 3 you can expect. But if you change the examples, this is one model, right? This is one model. You can just add the tone of voice in the prompt design.
Hmm.
Second is if you change the examples only.
Hmm.
Let's say a brand like Dunzo comes to you and they're trying to generate some content and a very professional brand, let's say some LinkedIn brand, and
Hmm.
they're trying to generate some content. So you change the examples for both of them.
Hmm.
So that way it's going to, let's say, as soon as Dunzo selects a witty tone, right?
Hmm.
You change the examples on the backend basis that, and you add in some chunk of witty examples instead of the professional ones. So the
Hmm.
outputs are by default going to be very witty, very casual. And
Hmm.
when this another brand comes in, you change the examples to the professional ones. So you're not adding that tone of voice as a text parameter, but you're changing the whole examples game only.
Okay, so
That
in
way
the
it
in the
works much
second
better.
case, the tone of voice is not an input in the prompt. The model expected to perform pick up the tone of the voice from the
Yes.
examples itself and not from like explicitly specifying it.
Yeah, that works much better, and that is something that we call dynamic prompts, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's not a static prompt. The prompts always keep changing based
Hmm.
on the tone that you select. So yeah.
Okay, got it. So one does the order in which you select the examples or the kind of examples you select, does that have an influence on the output?
Yeah, definitely. I think it has the major influence.
Okay.
So there's nothing that affects the outputs more than the examples that you put in.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it has to be very hit and trial model. So you put in 3 examples and you see the output and it's not on the lines. So
Hmm.
sometimes you add more examples or sometimes you just modify the existing ones.
Hmm.
And this is a skill that they personally learned with time.
Hmm.
So right now I know कि अगर ये content बनाना है मेरे को, if I have to create this content,
Hmm.
I'll probably add in 3 examples, but I need to add them of this length, of this length, of this length. So
Hmm.
that is something that you have an intuition for when you start creating these prompts at scale. But yeah, definitely, I think 3 to 4 examples work best, and they have to be very, very. You have to be very choosy about every single word that you type in that examples. So
Hmm.
the model is going to perform on basis of that.
Hmm.
So let's say, like one simple example. Let's say if I'm generating something that includes keyword. Let's say if I'm
Hmm.
generating some meta descriptions, right? So I ask the user some keywords,
Hmm.
right? And now you have to make sure that the output contains these keywords,
Hmm.
right? So how do you do that is like we discovered that, okay, how can we do this? How can we make sure that the output always contains these keywords?
Hmm.
Because that is not something that we've seen happening in GPT-3. It's very unpredictable model. It's a
Yep.
very creative model, right? So what we did was we added it in the input as only in the
Hmm.
examples.
Hmm.
The example that we added, we made
Nice.
sure we added some keywords in that,
Hmm.
and also added in the input that, hey,
Hmm.
input keywords, you have to make sure you enter, and examples, and we made sure that we enter those keywords. So
Hmm.
the output also follows that pattern. So it's a very
Nice.
pattern based model also. So yeah.
Okay. So does that mean that for each keyword you have to have an example which goes along with that keyword?
No, no, you can add 3 keywords and make sure that every keyword comes once or twice in the output. That's
Okay.
also
So,
fine.
so you can dynamically update the examples itself using some
Yeah,
NLP from
yeah,
your side. Got it. Got it.
definitely.
Uh, that's very helpful. And so one of the things which you earlier mentioned was like the product descriptions, right? The product description example, the use case, which is a slight deviation from everything else, which is shorter length, built for SEO, built for attracting attention quickly. Product description is built more for expansion, have a little flavor and style to it.
Yeah.
Uh, would you like to share a little bit more about how was it different from other use cases? And yeah, let's start there.
Yeah, definitely. I think what we have seen so far is that you first need to have a very deep understanding of the type of content that you're generating from GPT-3. Let's say if you're generating marketing content, all of this is that we do is marketing content specifically. So we've been in the content industry for 4 years now, and we understand that the depth of content, right? So every content is, what should it exactly contain? What is good content? What is bad content? And all that you need to make sure that you understand, and then only you can train the GPT model. Otherwise, you can't. So if you don't have the idea of what you're exactly expecting, if you don't know how to rate that output that came out of GPT-3, you'll never be able to better it, right?
Hmm.
So first, let's say if I'm going to generate, and I'm thinking, let's say our Peppertype, can I write product descriptions using Peppertype?
Hmm.
So the first step that I follow is I first learn about what a product description is, what a good product
Hmm.
description is, along all the blogs, along all the guidelines that have been written so far.
Hmm.
We try to learn what is a good product description.
Hmm.
And particularly in this example, product descriptions, and a lot of people do this mistake, is that you have to be very benefit first in this approach, right? You can't really talk about your features of the product. You have to tell the benefits to the user,
Hmm.
that what will they get from this product, not what you're offering.
Hmm.
That's the very basic difference where a lot of people make this mistake. Second is you have to be then basic guidelines. You have to be grammatically correct. You have to be SEO optimized and everything.
Hmm.
Third, you have to be very it should be written in a story format. Every product
Yeah.
description, it should be written in a very story format. So these are some
Hmm.
of the guidelines that I've learned. Ki, okay, this makes a good product descriptions, right?
Hmm.
Then I go over the internet. I see some good products. I see some good product descriptions. I try to inspire myself from that, and then I finally go to the GPT playground. I put those examples, basically input examples, then input, then output. So I try to generate these outputs for some features. And the first output is generally very ridiculous. It's not very relevant. It's going off track. It's not on length or everything. So we try to modify the examples now. Let's say I've added 2 examples that are world-class product descriptions, that are very, very great, that are world-class product descriptions that I've
Hmm.
put in examples. Now I try to add a little more length to it. I try to rewrite the content, some of it. I try to expand it a little bit based
Hmm.
on what's missing in the output, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So what we have personally seen is GPT-3 in a particular engine doesn't work great if you extend it beyond 80 to 800 words. It won't do great
When you say
because
words, or is it tokens? 80 to 100 tokens or 80 to 100 words?
80 to 100 words. Tokens,
Okay.
it can go up to 250, 300,
Okay.
right?
Hmm.
So we were trying to experiment that how much can it perform, how longer can it go,
Hmm.
and we discovered it's the best in short form content, But as you start going to long form content, it's going to disrupt, right?
Hmm.
It's not going to be that great. And how it learns is also that it looks back to all the content that you've written, and it tries to predict the next token that is going to come in the series. A token is basically two characters, so it is just predicting that what's going to come in the next sequence. And as you go longer, it starts to lose that context. So
Hmm.
the first line and the last line of a very long paragraph that GPT generates won't be really matching, won't be really relevant to each other. That's why
Hmm.
we discovered that okay, 80 words like it makes sense.
Hmm.
After that, it starts to break a little. So yeah, we made sure that we do 80 to 100 words only. We do it best. We provide the world class examples. We do it the best training, and we generate multiple options that a
Hmm.
user can just pick and combine them if they want a longer description, right? So yeah.
And okay, so changing tracks a little bit here. Uh, so how do you measure what works, right? So for instance, you argue that uh, like quality is very very important to you. So how do you know that, okay, let's say you can generate, let's say, 20 examples from GPT in one, you can do 20 requests in parallel, but which are
Yeah,
the three which you want to share with the customer? Okay, please select from these three. So like how do you measure that or select that?
got it. I think great question. Even that also. It's like this is something that we didn't really think about or care about that much in this initial phase, in the initial 1 2 months. And then we started focusing on really high quality content, and we saw other competitors going a little down in the terms of quality using
Hmm.
some alternative engines, GPT-J, GPT-Neo, and the quality went down miserably. And we wanted to stay on top of our quality. So we built this process. It's a 3 layered process. So first that goes through me. When I'm designing a prompt, I have to make sure that the examples that I try to generate at least 6 7 examples of every prompt before I push it
Hmm.
to staging or before I move ahead with it. But I try to generate 6 7 on the playground itself, and
Hmm.
all of them have to be good to
Hmm.
pass. Otherwise, I keep tweaking it. I keep tweaking it until I get an output that fascinates me personally.
Hmm.
That's very subjective, but that's a personal criteria. I
Hmm.
want to tweak the model until it generates something that really fascinates me,
Hmm.
and then I try to generate 3 4 more and see if it's okay. I let it go to staging.
Hmm.
Now, what happens at staging is so we at Pepper have around 65,000 content creators network right as of now. 65,000 creators have applied to be a part of Pepper. We work with around top 5 10%.
Hmm.
So we have a team of around 20 30 copywriters who are very skilled in what they do, very fantastic in writing great content. So they start using that content. I'm on the staging only.
Hmm.
They start using it and they provide some feedback that hey, I generated 10 outputs. Two
Hmm.
of them had this mistake, three of them had this mistake. Two of
Hmm.
them didn't meet the length criteria, one of them didn't have the keyword that I asked for.
Hmm.
And that goes again in the feedback loop. We take in that feedback and we've broken the issues in basically major buckets. It can be a length issue, it can be a quality issue, it can be a repetition issue, it can be a plagiarism issue, or it can be just the input को follow नहीं किया. It's a very irrelevant content that is generated.
Hmm.
So we try to add those issues in these buckets,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Which bucket does it fall in? We solve for that. We change the examples, tweak them a little bit. Maybe change the temperature, which is the creativity parameter. So
Hmm.
maybe lift it up a little, lift it down a little based on the feedback. So if
Hmm.
the content starts being very irrelevant,
Hmm.
if we see a lot of complaints in the irrelevant field,
Hmm.
we reduce the temperature. Basically,
Hmm.
we keep it slightly down. And if we start seeing a lot of repetition, let's say complaints, so we basically increase the presence penalty or frequency penalty, so
Hmm.
to avoid that. So yeah, that is how the whole feedback loop works. And thirdly, that is on the product itself. That when a user generates some content on Peppertype and they, let's say, add in some keywords, you add in your target audience, you add in some promotional offer that you're offering. Let's say if we're generating the perfect example, if we're generating a Google ad copy, right? So you'll put in what your brand does.
Hmm.
You'll put in some keywords that you're targeting for.
Hmm.
You'll add in the target audience you have for that ad.
Hmm.
You'll add in some promotional offer that you're running, the 10% offer on Christmas, 50% off on New Year, as I would say. So
Hmm.
you're running some promotion on some occasions. These are some 4 parameters you can optionally add in Peppertype, right?
Hmm.
When you generate that content, what happens on the back is GPT generates a lot of examples.
Hmm.
Um, we discard the ones that are not complete. So GPT-3, when GPT-3 returns a response, it tells you that
Yep.
did the engine stop because of it reached the max tokens or because it reached the stop sequence.
Yeah.
So we discard all the results that were stopped due to the max character limit,
Okay.
because we only want the ones that are stopped by the sequence, not by the token length.
Hmm.
So we discard all of them first of all. Second, we do a quick, we have a proprietary ML model wherein we do a quick relevancy check also. With
Okay.
the description you entered and the ad copy, how much do they match? Are
Hmm.
they not, are they talking about the same thing? We do
Hmm.
a relevancy check, and only above a certain criteria, only above a certain score, we let
Hmm.
it pass. Third check is where we do a quick x-ray of your generated content. So let's say you added some keywords, you
Hmm.
added some target audience, you added some promotion. So
Hmm.
we do a quick x-ray and we make sure that the keyword is in it, right? We make sure that these particular strings are in the result, and
Hmm.
then we sort it out accordingly. So the result that is filled with your promotion, that is filled with your keywords, will be on top and
Hmm.
going bottom. So there's
Hmm.
a feature called annotations in the Peppertype product as of today,
Hmm.
wherein if you click that annotations button, your keyword will get highlighted that hey, we use this keyword here. So all the results that are 10 results generated, you can see which of the results use my keyword, which of the results use my target audience,
Hmm.
and you'll be able to see it. It gets changed in color. That particular keyword will be
Hmm.
a green color, let's say. So
Hmm.
you'll be able to easily scan through the results.
Got
That
it.
is what we do to make sure the
Would
quality
you like,
is.
if you
Uh,
can, would you like to demo that?
yeah, definitely. Give me a second.
Yep. So as a heads up, once after the demo, we'll basically ask you questions around where does it fail, and then like as now you already mentioned the frequency penalty and temperature. So we'd love to know more about that. But yeah, after the demo, we'll wait on that.
Definitely. Just let me know if you share, if you can see my screen.
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
Yeah. So this is this is the home screen, and these are all the use cases that you can use of right now. These are all the content types.
Mm-hmm.
So these are particularly Amazon product descriptions, headline, product titles,
Hmm.
cold emails. You can write full blown cold emails from start to end,
Okay.
and you can sort them according to this. So let's say if you're generating this Google ad copy, right, as we talked. Yeah. So yeah, an AI powered content generation tool creating high quality content in seconds. And these are the advanced options I was talking about.
Hmm.
The keywords that I wish to include. So I wish to include copywriting at least, should be there in my ad copy.
Hmm.
Target audience, let's
Let's say
say it's
marketeers.
copywriters from
Yeah.
marketeers, let's say, yeah, marketeers. Occasion, let's say Christmas is
Diwali.
coming,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Christmas.
I can even include Diwali in this, yeah.
Yeah.
And 40% off that I'm offering. So when I create this content,
Hmm.
the feedback loop goes on and on.
Mm-hmm. So what is happening here, just to quickly recap and so that you can confirm here, is that you generate more than what I see, like more than let's say six
Yeah,
GPT-3,
yeah, way more.
way more than that. So and then you run your relevancy check, you run your keyword check, you run your annotation on it, and then you select and rank them, and then it shows up here.
Yeah.
Is that?
So this is how it's generated. You'll see there are no results that are incomplete or that have some extra content left in it,
Hmm.
because we cut that out on the back end.
Hmm.
Um, this is the annotations feature I was talking about. Once you click it, you'll be able to see that okay, green target audience is there
Hmm.
in this result. I
Wow.
have my
Nice.
keywords in this result.
Hmm.
I have my promotion offer. So 40% off and 40% discount. But I
Hmm.
just use discount and it's not getting highlighted.
Hmm.
But yeah, if you see 40% off, it's getting highlighted now. And you'll see the more the um, keywords, more the target audience these above results have. As
Hmm.
you start going lower, it won't have these because it's
It's
basically
ranked on that. Yeah.
sorted according to that. Yeah. So yeah, this is how it works on the Peppertype product as of today. And when you start saving these examples, right?
Hmm.
So let's say if I generate 6 ad copies, I like 2 of them,
Hmm.
right? And now the dynamic prompts come in. Now the next output that I'll generate will be basis these 2 outputs that are already saved.
Ah,
So the
nice.
quality only starts to go higher and higher on those
So it
terms.
gets personalized to your brand over time because you can select
Yeah,
ones
yeah,
from your recent past.
definitely.
Got it. So I think that brings me to the next question. Like, how do you use parameters? And I'm assuming obviously there is variance across use cases, but do you also customize parameters, let's say for brand level or some other way? Like what does your thought process look like around that?
Got it. I think what we have learned in these 9 months, and in one statement, if I had to summarize that, GPT-3 is the creative model. It's not an intelligent model.
Hmm.
It's going to be very creative. It's going to fascinate you at points, but it's not going to be very intelligent. So you can't expect it to be very factual, or you can't expect it to be on point with things.
Hmm.
So, all the demos that we also give today, all the customers that we have, they also ask us that, hey, can I completely blindly rely on Peppertype for my content? And I always say no.
Hmm.
It's a creative model. It's not going to be an intelligent one. Even if you provide it all the context, it's going to go off the track. It's going to off-road sometimes, and it's going to generate content that is very creative, but
Hmm.
that might not be relevant to you. So parameters, how we use is, at first when we started, we were skeptical a little in those terms that we want to keep the temperature low. We want to be on point with things. We want to make sure that we don't generate any irrelevant content as such.
Hmm.
But in the 9 months that we have learned is, you don't need to create every result doesn't need to be very good, right?
Hmm.
Every result doesn't need to be very relevant. A
Hmm.
result out of 10 can be relevant as long as the other nine are very, very amazing,
Hmm.
right? So as you start keeping the temperature low, if you keep it 0.4, 0.5, at
Hmm.
0.6 even, so it's going to start repeating itself at a point, maybe even if it's very relevant,
Hmm.
but it's going to start repeating itself at a point,
Hmm.
right? And if you're in the longer game, you don't want that. You keep the creative at 0.8 or zero point 0.9.
Hmm.
Even if sometimes if it might generate a result that is irrelevant, that will filter out basically on
Hmm.
peptide. But even if it generates that one result that is irrelevant, the other three are going to be very amazing every single time.
Hmm.
So we make sure that we give the user plenty of options, and the creativity factor is usually a little on the higher side for us.
Hmm.
Um, on the other parameters, top P, we usually keep it one. We basically play with the temperature only.
Hmm.
Frequency penalty, presence penalty is something. Frequency penalty and presence penalties has a very slightly different. It's always been a confused topic on those terms.
Yeah.
But yeah, penalty, you can expect the model to not use the same tokens again, to not
Hmm.
use the same words again, maybe. So we don't usually use that parameters because we want that keyword, right?
Hmm.
Almost all the content types on Peppertype have this keyword field.
Hmm.
So I can't keep the frequency penalty as really high because
Hmm.
I want these words to, and I want these tokens to repeat itself.
Got it.
But I use the presence penalty parameter a lot. I play
Hmm.
around with it a lot. It tells the user to talk about new topics, even if it's using the same topic.
Hmm.
It Even if it's using the same words, it asks the GPT-3 model to talk about new topics.
Hmm.
So that's the basic difference, and that's four parameters basically which we use and which we don't use.
So just to confirm, you usually use DaVinci in the engine.
Yeah, DaVinci engine, and recently we started testing out DaVinci Instruct Beta also.
Mhm.
That is better, a little better at following the commands that you give it.
Yeah, the Instruct series. Yeah. So and what has your been experience? Sorry, what has your experience been with, that's a Curie or Curie Instruct? A Curie Instruct is okay in my experience, but I would love to hear from you as well.
Yeah. So as I said, right, for us, it really depends on the quality bit a little more. We have to be really creative with every output that we give out.
Hmm.
This is something that human psychology, right? Even if you present the user with five outputs,
Hmm.
even if four of them are really fantastic,
Hmm.
but even if the one output that the user sees is not relevant or is little bit bad,
Hmm.
it's going to give a wrong impression. The user is
Okay.
not going to love your product,
Got it.
even if the one output is not really that great.
Hmm.
So we tried out all these Babbage, all these Curie engines also,
Hmm.
but and it can be great in the particular field of summarization. It can be great in the field of let's say when you're rewriting some content. It can
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
great if you're basically using it as a chatbot. It
Hmm.
can be great in those terms.
Hmm.
But if you're writing really creative content like we do, marketing
Hmm.
content, creative content, original every time, then
Hmm.
it becomes a little difficult to handle Curie or Babbage. It's best if we use DaVinci in those terms.
Got it.
Even if for language translation, right, you can use
Hmm.
Curie Instruct. It's a great model in those terms.
Yeah.
But when I try to generate some original content, I have to be a little on the safer side and use
Yeah. I mean,
DaVinci only.
I'm assuming that is partially because diversity is important to you. Curie is quite repetitive, at least in the topic sense. It will quickly start repeating itself.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I think so. The next most interesting question to us would be, where does GPT-3 fail? We discussed parts of this earlier when you mentioned that repetition is an issue, degree of creativity is an issue. So yeah, where does it typically fail in your experience, and how are you handling that for now?
Yeah, so I think this is something that I've been quite upfront with about the customers, about all the demos that I give, that hey, these are the limitations. Don't expect that this will be fixed in a short term, right? And this is something that you have to be okay with. And we have seen over 7,000 people being okay. So we are sure that people can handle it. We just want to make sure that they are. So as I said, right, it's a creative model, not an intelligent one. The basic difference, it can do a great product description, but it can't
Mm-hmm.
write the product specs for you.
Mm,
So that's the basic difference that we tell everybody. You can't expect the model to write market research report for you. It
mm,
won't do that.
mm,
It can write great product description. It can write a great creative story, but it
mm,
can't do product specs.
mm,
So yeah, it's not factual in the sense. It goes way off sometimes, and
mm,
that basically depends on your creativity, which is little high on our side. But yeah, it goes. It's not factual at all.
mm,
So you can't expect any fact that comes out of GPT-3 to be actually a truth. You have to make sure that you cross check it through the internet, and you make sure that you do that.
mm,
So what we do in this case is we never fill in the brands. Let's say if there is a year that comes in that, hey, Pepper content was founded in 2017. That is the answer I know.
mm,
But I don't know, GPT-3 might end up saying 2002, 2004, 2021. It can say
mm,
all of that. So I make sure that I add a blank there in the example only.
mm,
So all my examples are very vague in facts term, right? In
mm,
factual terms, they don't include any facts. I
mm,
mostly blank them out. So GPT-3 learns on the pattern that hey,
mm,
whenever I'm about to say a fact, I have to
mm,
blank it. I don't have to write it. So
mm.
based on my examples, what GPT-3 would do is type of content is a startup founded in Dash. That
Got it.
helps the user that hey, quickly fill it based on your knowledge, but
Mm,
don't rely on the AI to fill in the facts for you.
mm,
So yeah, that is one thing. Second, it has data till 2019. It's not going to write you great stuff on trendy stuff, and that
mm,
has been a actually a big problem because a lot of folks come around, a lot of healthcare companies come around when they want to write blogs on coronavirus.
mm.
Peppertype or GPT-3 has no idea what coronavirus is.
Instruct series does, no? Instruct series has
Yeah, yeah.
2020 data.
Yeah, but still, it's not going to be in real time. So people don't. You can't expect it to write on trendy stuff. You can't pull out a topic
Yeah,
from Google Trends and write on that. It can't do that. And most of the articles that you can pull out from Google Trends also are going to be news-based articles,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And it can't do that. So yeah, it's not real-time training that has been going on. It's frequently repetitive based
Mm,
on your training, but it's frequently repetitive. Even if you do the prompt, if you train the prompt excellently,
mm,
it will repeat. Let's say 1 in 100 case, maybe you can reduce the chance. You can
mm,
never eliminate it completely. If you do a bad prompt training, it will probably repeat in once in a 10 time output.
mm.
But if you do a good prompt training, you can eliminate it up to 1 to 100, 1 to 500, but it
Mm.
will repeat. So yeah, it's
Got it.
not completely unavoidable. You can do some workaround wherein you just do a quick ref check of all the results that you have and the output that is generated. If it matches, you discard it. But yeah, that's something that GPT-3 fails at personally.
Got it.
Um,
Okay, and
one
on
big
that,
thing that
yeah.
yeah,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
one big thing that I misunderstood at the start was whenever we hear the word AI or ML, the image of a when being a product manager, I'm saying from that front, the image of a robotic brain comes to a mind that's learning and getting better in real time.
Mm-hmm.
So let me stop you right there. GPT-3, it's a generative pre-trained transformer. It's pre-trained. It does not evolve on the current data. It does not better itself. It is not going to, dynamically learn something based on some feedback. It's a pre-trained model, and it's trained on these 175 billion parameters, and that's it. It's going to work only on that data. It's not going to learn on your data anything. So people often confuse prompt training as learning,
Mm-hmm.
and this basic difference is learn and train, right? You are training the engine to do something for you, you're not making it learn something.
Mm,
And this is also that a lot of users come to us today, a lot of enterprises come to us today that,
mm,
hey, this is my resource center, this is my frequently asked questions. Can
mm,
you train your AI on this? And every time a customer comes in, you answer the question. And like, "No, we can't do this. We
Hmm.
can't do this. Not GPT. No, this can't be done. It
Hmm.
can't be trained on your data."
Hmm.
So the pre-trained model and yeah, lastly, I think the long form content thing, right? So what it does is it takes the existing content that is on the playground right now, that is in your prompt right now, and it understands all of that and it tries to predict the next token by token and token.
Hmm.
And there's a limit to the input that you can give it, the prompt length that you can give it. So you can't, let's say, put in 1,000 words and expect it to write the next word and so on. So it has a look back limit. So you can only produce, you can only provide it context to some extent. You can't provide it 1,000 words. You probably have to summarize it into 100 to 120 words and then provide the context to be able to generate newer content. So yeah, longer form.
And do you try to do long form content like, let's say, blogs today?
We do not do blogs. We do not write complete blogs. We provide the facility to put together a blog. We generate all the different components for it. So as I said, right, being in the content field, we have been doing this where we do Google Docs template for a lot of clients, and that's where the learning has come from. That a blog essentially has 5 6 sections. You have a blog title, you have a blog, basically one liner description that you have, that you probably show it as a preview. Then you have blog ka meta description. Uh, you have a blog intro that's around 100 words. You have a blog outline that is your table of content basically. That are 4 or 5 pointers that you're going to talk about. Then you have main content where you have subheads and you have 100 words of content against each subheads. And then you finally have a conclusion to that blog. And this is the structure. So what we do is we can generate you a blog idea. We can generate you a one-liner description for it. We can generate the SEO meta description all separately. You can put them together, and we can also generate the blog intro of 100 words. We can generate the conclusion for 120 words. We can generate all the we can generate a full blog outline, all the content under those headings. We can do all of that, but yeah, you have to piece them together to make that blog.
Got it. Got it. I think that's very helpful. That although you cannot do it in one go, you can piece it together as long as you're careful about what the structure looks like, and you can follow through it. Like, you can keep it in your head.
Yeah, right now we are doing this wherein we ask the users, okay, you can piece them together. And there are, I don't know, hundreds of use cases that I don't even know about the users use and tell me. When
Hmm.
we come on a demo call, we come on a feedback call and they tell me, I'm like, okay, what's the use case? What are you using the tool for?
Hmm.
They come to me and they tell me sometimes that I am using this for writing this thing.
Hmm.
Using these 5 content types, I use this, I input this description into that and that into this. And they
Oh
generate
wow.
that
What does that
content
example look
and
like? Would you like to share one?
yeah. So I think I was talking to this creator who runs a really interesting newsletter today
Hmm.
on tech and startups.
Hmm.
So I had given him the access to Peppertype. He had reached out to me on Twitter. He told me that, hey, I want to try out your tool and everything. So I gave him the access and he
Hmm.
started playing around with it. I think around 15 days back, I reached back to him and I asked him, hey, how is it going? How are you liking the content and what's the use case that you've been using it for? So he told me that he's using it for LinkedIn posts, and we have not put out a official LinkedIn content type as of now.
Hmm.
So I was like, okay, that's surprising. We don't really have a LinkedIn content type. How are you using it? And he's like, let's get on a call. And he showed me a demo of my own product that, hey, what I do is I basically generate engaging questions. So there's a content type called engaging questions.
Hmm.
You can enter a topic name, let's say content marketing, copywriting, GPT3 impact,
Hmm.
and it will generate some really interesting questions around it,
Hmm.
right? So let's say if I write content, it will probably give you a question. It will give you questions that you can ask your audience about, like,
Hmm.
what's your favorite content to consume in a day? That's an engaging question.
Hmm.
So this content type generates really engaging questions, and sometimes they're very tricky also.
Hmm.
Okay. So he told me that he basically, let's say he was writing on Canva today.
Hmm.
Canva as a startup or graphic designing industry as a thing.
Hmm.
So he goes on to Peppertype, he uses engaging questions and he types out Canva graphic designing, DIY graphic designing. He enters all these topic points and he gets some really interesting questions,
Hmm.
right? That, hey, do you know how to create a graphic today in 5 minutes under this circumstances and everything?
Hmm.
He writes that as a question and then he uses the Quora answer tool. So
Hmm.
Quora answer is a tool, is something that you put in the questions. If you have something that you wish to include in the answers, you can add that. but anyways, it works without that also. And the model will give you its opinion on that particular question.
Hmm.
It's not going to be again factual, but it's going to give you a great opinion on that.
Hmm.
So what he does is he goes to that core answers content type. He puts in this question: do you want to know how to generate this?
Hmm.
In the things to include, he adds Canva, talk about Canva as a startup, and
Hmm.
he gets some really fascinating long form answers like 100,
Hmm.
120 words. He then puts some of that into content expander. Expander basically expands the length of a particular content piece. He puts that into the content rewriter to make it more crisp.
Hmm.
Let's say the core answer is supposed to be very informative,
Hmm.
and he wants a more witty, more engaging type of answer.
Hmm.
So he puts that into content rewriter. It keeps the meaning same, and it
Hmm.
turns it into a very witty tone, sometimes
Hmm.
funny also.
Hmm.
So that happens, and okay, I'm like, okay, I'm following you till now. What do you do then? And he's like, yeah, that's it. I just put that as a LinkedIn post. That is the question is my first line. That is my hook.
Hmm.
People who just read this first question, they get mind fucked. Okay, hey, what? How do I do this? I want to know. So they see the full post, and
Hmm.
there is an answer written by Peppertype, also crafted by that. And at the last, I plug in my newsletter.
So it's lead gen for
So, so this is just one thing that
the person
I
doesn't
saw,
need to
and I
know
was
about
really
Canva to
fascinated.
write about Canva.
Yeah, yeah, it doesn't. So he wrote a newsletter on that. Basically, he wrote a newsletter on some similar topic, and
Ah.
he wanted to generate a LinkedIn post for that. So he put that really well, and the guy is actually growing from LinkedIn only. His
Oh
primary
wow.
source of traffic is LinkedIn, and he's doing this, and I'm really fascinated every time I come across his post, and I'm like, okay, this is
Nice.
a great hack. Yeah.
Nice. You should probably use that for pepper marketing as well.
Yeah, we all the time we get ideas. All the time we get these ideas. Sometimes I'm also really fascinated. Hey, we should also use this actually.
Nice, nice. I think that's fascinating. On that note, one last question. Do you use the GPT-3 fine tuning? That they have the fine tuning thing in beta now. Do you use that at all for any of these systems?
We started testing it out actually recently, only very recently, a couple of weeks back. We got in touch with the talk. We got in talks with the GPT team, and we got a demo of that. We are actually testing it right now. Basically, putting the results. So what we do right now is we also did a testing across industries when we started out.
Hmm.
So let's say if I put in examples of fintech, does it generate better content for fintech only?
Hmm.
So we did these examples, and we were thinking that it would be different, but it was not. So
Hmm.
GPT-3 doesn't really doesn't matter the industry of inputs that you give it.
Hmm.
The outputs are going to be the same. So right now also we're testing the same thing that hey, this is a quality score right now. Does
Hmm.
it go up if you use the fine tuning, or does it really not matter that much?
Hmm.
So you want to make sure that if that really ups the quality score by at least a margin of 50-60%,
Hmm.
then we get that in place. So yeah, we're actually testing it right now.
Cool, cool. I think this has been great. I think I've learned so many versatile use cases of GPT-3. Uh, thanks, Pranav, for taking the time. I'll just quickly stop the recording. Is there anything which you'd like to add or share with other product managers who want to try GPT-3 before we end?
Not sure, yeah. I think it's definitely something that you should, even if you're not able to build a use case out of it as such, you
Mm-hmm.
should definitely get your hands on and try this stuff out. Like this
Hmm.
is something that's going to stay for time,
Hmm.
stay for a long time right now. It's going to be plugged in into a lot of products. It's going to be playing a really crucial role.
Hmm.
And you can read about all the some of the. So I was before this call only, I was reading this OpenAI blog only.
Hmm.
So where they have featured some of the really great use cases that people have been able to do,
Hmm.
collecting customer feedback, doing this, doing that, sentiment
Yeah.
analysis, and all of that.
Yeah.
And some of them were really fascinating. So as a product manager, you should always be on a lookout for new stuff that's coming up,
Hmm.
and you should always have the technology set minded that hey, this is something that's there in the market, and even if it doesn't, you can't see a use case for it right now, you probably will in the future. So yeah.
Got it. Cool. Thanks for that, Pranav. Let me just stop the recording now.